Maria was getting ready to leave that Thursday. She was going to spend her last weekend in Nueva Palestina, Chiapas, before going home. Being harassed had not stopped, and she told her mum she didn't feel safe. She also said she would try to talk to the clinic head one more time. Her only wish was to get away. After that, she stopped picking up the phone. She had been forced to live in a small room next to the clinic where she worked. The next day, her body was found there. Where did Mariana really go? She asked for help, so why was she sent to a place that was so dangerous? And why did the police blow up important evidence so quickly to end the case before her family could get answers? People wanted this young woman to help them, but when she needed help, no one was there to save her. She was born in Mexico City on July 16, 1995, and lived there for the first few months of her life. Lourdes only had one daughter. Her father wasn't around much, especially after the split, and not much was known about him. Mariana often went back and forth between Mexico City and Tuxtla Gutierrez, where her maternal grandparents lived when she was very young. When she was 6, though, she decided she didn't want to go back to Mexico City and moved with her mother to Tuxtla Gutierrez for good. She spent her youth and teen years in that city, but not much is known about those years. She was known for being a happy but quiet and shy child. After finishing high school, she became interested in dentistry and started studying it at a nearby college. Later, though, she changed her mind and went to Universidad Autónoma de Chiapas to become a doctor. Mariana worked hard in school and did well in her classes. In order to get more knowledge, she did work experience at private clinics. Pathology was her dream field. Like many young people, she liked hanging out with friends, going to parties, and working out at the gym. People who knew her said she was kind, smart, and very loyal, like a friend who would always be there for you. Mariana faced her problems with bravery, even though they were hard. She shared a lot of memes, encouraging quotes, and posts about how much she loved junk food and desserts on social media. People knew she stood up for things she believed in, like making abortion legal and stressing how important it is to donate blood, bone marrow, and organs to save lives. She had to do her social service at a public clinic in Monterrey, which was only a few hours away from where her mother had moved during her last year of medical school. Mariana and Lourdes were more than just mom and daughter. They were best friends and couldn't live without each other. They became even closer when Lourdes was told she had cancer. They went through everything together. Since this was the case, Mariana made it a point to visit her mom every weekend she could. Mariana had to do her social service before she could start her medical training. This was a requirement that was given to her through a public selection process based on how well she did in school. She got a small monthly stipend of $100 to $150 for this work. Mariana was sent to work at the health center in Nueva Palestina, an indigenous village in the municipality of Ocosingo, Chiapas, in August 2020, when she was 24 years old. The place was far away and didn't have many tools. For many, this kind of task was both a professional and a personal challenge. But for Mariana, it quickly turned into something that was too much to handle. When she got there, she was given a small, empty room that wasn't really fit for living in. Several sources say the room had 4 gray walls that weren't painted and no bed, so she had to bring her own, or make one out of something else. The place was full of bugs and didn't have a bathroom or any other basic comforts. She couldn't connect to the internet or her cell phone, so she was cut off from the rest of the world. To do simple things like use the bathroom, she had to cross an empty lot and share facilities that weren't well taken care of with her co-workers. There were no doors in the room, and a black plastic sheet was used as a screen. The health center was a simple building that was put up on an empty plot of land. People in the area shared their limited funds and time to build it so that they could get medical care. Not only were the living conditions bad, but the place was also thought to be very dangerous. Multiple incidents of violence against healthcare workers in the area had already been recorded. Maria felt like she didn't belong there as soon as she got there. The moment she walked into the building, her mother says she felt like she had to leave right away. As soon as she heard that thefts and even lynchings had happened in the area, she felt alone and scared. The door to her living space was broken, so she was exposed at night. All of this made her feel even more anxious and dangerous all the time. But the worst thing wasn't that there weren't any basic comforts. It was that she was constantly being harassed. It made Mariana feel even more exposed when she told her family that a co-worker was bothering her. She wanted to ask for a move, but it was hard to do because of red tape and a lack of institutional support. She was told to leave the clinic by her mother, but Mariana was set on finishing her social service and starting her job as a doctor. She didn't have much time to talk to her family because she was busy and didn't have cell service, but she told her mother that she was going to talk to the clinic's head to ask for a transfer. No matter how many times Mariana told the officials about the harassment, neither the local government nor the schools took it as seriously as they should have. Her desire to be transferred was never granted, so she was stuck in a place that was becoming more hostile and dangerous. By the end of November, things had gotten so bad that they were scary. Mariana wrote a sad message to her mother and a close friend in which she told them about a horrible event. The same friend who had been making her feel unsafe for months came into her room one night while she was very drunk. Before she could say anything, he jumped into her bed and started touching her rough. She did everything she could to push him away, but he wouldn't go away. A nurse who was Mariana's roommate wasn't there at the time, so she was all by herself and at risk. Before this terrible thing happened, Mariana had already made an official complaint to try to get away from the dangerous situation. The doctor, however, shocked and confused her by saying they needed her there and turning down her request. Because she had no other choice, she stayed in a place that was getting worse and worse for her. Her mother said that the harassment from her neighbor kept happening every night. She thought that what her daughter told her on the phone might not have been the whole story. She thought that the abuse could have been much worse. Mariana never said this outright, probably so she wouldn't make her mother worry. Not many women in Mexico are brave enough to do what she did. She told the clinic staff and the public prosecutor's office about the harassment in an official way. The clinic's managers didn't do anything. They just brought her some tamales and told her to take some time off to calm down. At the same time, the prosecutor's office ignored her report and put the case on hold without further investigation. Mariana wasn't the only one who saw how careless the people who were supposed to keep her safe were. Testimonies say that the person who was harassing her even broke into her room by forcing the door open. The clinic director's only reaction was to tell her to take a few days off and say that they would fire the man, which never happened. Mariana was so upset that she also made an official complaint to the UNAC Chiapas, which was in charge of her safety during this last part of her studies. Still, nothing important happened. It turned into an awful nightmare for her, and the thought of going back to that clinic scared her to death. Then, in January 2021, something terrible happened. Mariana had already packed her bags on Thursday, January 28th, and was getting ready to go back to Tuxtla Gutierrez that weekend after her last meetings were over. She talked to her mum that day. Lourdes knew something wasn't right because her daughter sounded tense, rushed, and emotional. Mariana told her that the harassment was still going on and that she was going to try to talk to the clinic head again to find a solution. She said she'd call her mum when she got home from work, but she never did. Mariana still hadn't replied by Friday, January 29th. Late that morning, one of Mariana's friends told her mother the terrible news. Her daughter had been found dead, hanging from a rope in the small room where she had been living, which was right next to the clinic. When her family heard the news, it was like a heavy blow. They were shocked and had so many questions. Even though Lourdes' health was bad, she booked a flight to the south of the country right away. Her trip of more than 8 hours, with long transfers and layovers, was finally over, and she was able to take back her daughter's body. The officials, on the other hand, slowed things down, and she wasn't finally allowed to see Mariana's body until the next morning. Lourdes didn't open it because she thought it would be too painful to see her daughter that way. Before it was taken away, she looked at the closed coffin for about 20 minutes. The exam didn't reveal much, but it did say that Mariana had died of asphyxiation from hanging. The formal report said that she killed herself. While Lourdes and no one else in the family was not present, Mariana's body was burned that same day. Lourdes was sure she had never signed anything that gave permission for her daughter to be cremated. The family was shocked at how quickly it was done. There wasn't time for a proper goodbye, and the hurried process made them even more suspicious. The sudden and clear conclusion about what killed Mariana made those nearest to her ask a lot of questions. There was a past of harassment, and there was also an investigation going on into sex that had not been taken into account. A lawyer hired by the family pointed out that there were major problems with the case. He made it clear that Mariana's burning was not only illegal, but it also went against Mexico's Federal Code of Criminal Procedure. This law says that people that have been violently killed, including those that have died by suicide, cannot be cremated because it destroys important forensic evidence. The fact that Mariana's body was burned made it almost difficult to do any more research. As the outrage grew, the Office of the Prosecutor in Chiapas said in a statement that the autopsy did not reveal any signs of physical or sexual. They also said that Mariana had never officially reported any claimed sexual offense to the police. Their words didn't do much to calm the anger that had spread across the country, though. Medical interns from all over the area and students from the Universidad Autónoma de Chiapas went on strike for an indefinite amount of time. They wouldn't believe what the police said about what happened with Mariana and wanted a full probe. Students from both the medical and gerontology faculties wrote an open message to the university administration demanding that those who had ignored Mariana's cries for help be held responsible. They called it a femicide instead of a suicide because she was killed. She could have stopped it if her complaints had been taken seriously. As anger grew, more and more people from all walks of life joined the call for justice for Mariana. Social media was a strong way to show how inconsistent and careless things were in her case. Thousands of people used hashtags like #JusticeForMariana to share messages, videos, and stories that called out the institutions that were supposed to protect her. The posts quickly went viral, making people all over the country angry. Soon, the movement grew to include more than just online action. A lot of people thought this wasn't just one person being careless. They thought it was a failure of the whole system. Mariana had begged for help many times, but both the government and the schools had ignored her. The university should have kept her safe during her last few months of classes, but they didn't help her family with their fight for justice. As more people put pressure on the case, it became a national discussion. This showed how institutions had been ignoring the tragedy for so long. In reaction, the Ministry of the Interior told the Office of the Attorney General for Chiapas to follow the legal process for looking into deaths of women by violence and make sure the case was handled in a way that took gender into account. In a public statement, the police said they were in close touch with Mariana's family and promised to give them all the help and resources they needed. They also said that the Chiapas Secretariat for Gender Equality was involved in the case and was there to help the mother, who was sad. Mariana's mother, Lourdes, thanked everyone who had supported her daughter's cause in public on February 2nd, even though she was still healing from surgery. In a sad video she posted on social media, she said that someone from the government had tried to blame her for what happened to Mariana. "I want to address those who question my role as a mother, asking where I was," she stated. "I was living outside of Chiapas and working to give my daughter a future. Some people say I was wrong to let her do her job so far away. But my daughter had a reason for living. The abuse she went through was not her fault." Her words touched a lot of people and showed how much she didn't trust the officials. She still hadn't been given access to the case file or an official copy of the investigation at that point. She told the public to keep demanding real justice, one without scapegoats or rigged court processes, because she was fed up with the lack of openness. On February 13th, Anahi was arrested. She was in charge of the clinic in Nueva Palestina where Mariana worked. The Chiapas State Attorney General's office said she was guilty of abuse of power because she didn't report the mistreatment Mariana was going through, even though she knew about it. Mariana had been complaining, but Anahi told her not to worry about it by giving her soup and some time off. Additionally, she had said that the man who was bothering Mariana would be moved, but she never did. In a strange twist, it was this director who called the police when Mariana's dead body was found on January 29th morning. A judge told Anahi to stay in pre-trial detention at a jail because there was clear evidence of her carelessness. According to independent reporters who read the police report, the most obvious thing that wasn't mentioned was that the Chiapas Attorney General's office let Mariana's body be cremated, which meant that there was no way to do any more forensic analysis. The case file also showed major problems with the usual way that femicide probes are done. Even though Mariana had said before that she was in danger, the investigation seemed to be focused on ruling out any outside blame instead of looking for possible culprits. The report kept making Mariana sound like the problem by calling her confused, uncommunicative, and even saying she had been difficult. There wasn't much talk about the harm she had faced because of her gender. Instead, the official position stayed that she was the only one to blame for her terrible fate. The death record said that Mariana passed away on January 28th at 8:30 p.m. and that she died of asphyxiation by hanging. Some important forensic data were missing, though. It wasn't said what kind of rope was used or where it was exactly. What was even scarier was that the first reports from the scene said her body wasn't found hanging like it usually is. Forensic detectives took pictures of Mariana on her knees, with her fists clenched and her arms stretched downward. Some of the first people to arrive at the scene thought she was relaxing because of the way she was standing. To make things even more confusing, Mariana's co-workers were interviewed about things that had nothing to do with her situation, like her cleanliness. Several witnesses said she didn't take many showers, and one person even said she took antihistamines when there were no medical records to back this up. For Mariana's family, these comments were clear attempts to twist the investigation, take the attention away from possible suspects, and hurt her reputation. Even with these problems, the family's lawyers were able to find the man who had been bothering Mariana. His name was kept secret to avoid following the rules, but the truth came out in the end. People started sharing pictures and names of Fernando Perez Jimenez on social media, who was said to be the doctor who caused Mariana's pain. On February 18th, police searched his house. He was already on the run at that point. A few hours later, Fernando turned himself in without warning. In an online film, he denied having anything to do with Mariana's death and said he was being persecuted. Even though Fernando protested, he was officially jailed, but not for Mariana's death. He was only charged with at that point. The Office of the Attorney General said that the harassment case and the investigation into Mariana's death were being treated separately. But her family wouldn't give up. They kept fighting because they were determined to find out the whole truth and make sure those who were guilty were punished. During one of the first court meetings, the Office of the Attorney General for Chiapas showed concrete evidence that linked Fernando to the ongoing criminal case. More disturbing information came to light. He had a past of sexual harassment claims against other women, some of which went back years. Because these results were so serious, the judge ordered preventive detention, which meant Fernando was sent to prison. Lourdes, Mariana's mother, led a never-ending fight that ended with his arrest. From the start, she wouldn't keep quiet. She demanded justice and pushed for answers. Even though she was strong and determined, the probe was held up by long delays and problems that were hard to fix. As the case went on, and the Chiapas government didn't make any real progress, Lourdes kept going through her own hard time, which she had been going through quietly for years. Lourdes died on August 8, 2021, after a long and painful battle with bone cancer. She would never see the justice she so desperately sought for her daughter. The court looked over Mariana's first complaint, which she had made just 2 months before she died, during Fernando's trial. Further proof showed that in 2013, a different woman, a nurse, had officially accused him of trying to beat her at least twice while she worked at different healthcare facilities in Chiapas. Even as the proof mounted, Fernando insisted that he was innocent. In an early February statement to the police, he said that he had never even talked to Mariana. He said in what he said was a voluntary statement that he had been at a medical lab in Tuxtla Gutierrez the day after Mariana's death, getting regular tests done. Fernando was given a 3-year jail sentence on November 25, 2021, but only for sexual harassment. The case had been going on for more than a year. At the end of the investigation, he and no one else had been officially charged, accused, or found guilty of Mariana's death. In Mariana Sanchez's case, the forensic proof was still scarce and controversial. There were a lot of problems that were never fixed, and no one could say for sure what had happened to her. That's where we'll leave this case for now. If you want to see more true crime stories, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Every perspective matters. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and keep seeking the truth.